some changes. Anybody want to make changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I would like to add an item called legislative updates after the board study or at the end of the board study and before adjournment.
Okay, so 10B. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, would someone like to make a move to adopt the agenda with that change?
Motion to adopt the change.
And a second? All in favor? Okay, we have some commendations. We're going to start with the middle school tonight. Mr. Claver, are you ready?
I do have a bunch of this.
All righty.
We're going to start out with the middle school student of the month. This is only for an hour, please. You put it on, but my mess there. Okay, you gotta stay here though. We got some things to say. Your teacher's writing nice things to say about you, so you have to sit there and be embarrassed. Okay, we're starting with Mr. Carlton. Emily's a student who strives to do her best in all aspects of her life. She's conscious of her surroundings and strives to be around those who allow her to learn, grow, and be the best she can be. Emily strives to understand the material to deeper knowledge and is willing to ask those questions that others have reservations to ask. I can count on her to be a leader among her peers. Many times, Emily will ask clarifying questions to make sure she fully understands what's being said and also to make sure she knows how it applies to her everyday life. Emily is an intrinsic learner. She wants to learn and has an inner drive to learn. Emily is a joy to have in class. Emily, keep up the good work and continue to have fun, Mr. Carlton. Mr. Draper said this: Emily is an absolutely amazing young woman, and I really enjoy having her in class. She is so kind-hearted and considerate of others, which is very evident in how she treats her peers. She just goes out of her way to talk to classmates who may not have as many friends, and she always has a smile that brightens our day. In addition to this, Emily is a role model student. She has an expressive ability to take feedback and then apply what she learns from it. As a result, she continues to make tremendous gains in both of my classes. Emily, you are awesome, and you totally deserve this award. I have loved teaching you this year and look forward to all of your many accomplishments you will have in the future. Congratulations. I'm going to read Mr. Boyer's. There's one more. Emily's a very wonderful student. She's always on task and pushes herself to do her best. Whenever she is done with one project, she is eager and ready to start the next one. Emily is an example to her peers and has a very good work ethic. If you want to know more about Emily and her work, go to the art show at the end of May and find out. Way to go, Emily. She's really talented, by the way. Congratulations. We also have the pleasure for our parents of the month. We have two this month, and we're going to do them with the parents, Gabby and Ben Baker. You guys will have to arm wrestle to see who gets our two pins. If you guys don't know Gabby and Ben are two amazing parents. I enjoy them because they're able to do like anything we ask them to, for example. It doesn't matter if it's little kids basketball, if they don't even have a kid on the team, they'll coach it. If it's wrestling and we're doing weigh-ins, they'll sit there at the scale and weigh the kids in. So any single thing, for example, not a wrestler, for example, but obviously embraced it as, from my standpoint and for Coach DeLeon, just out there willing to step out of his comfort zone to be part of that. Same deal with Gabby is there all the time to help us. So I've got this though. There's more to that than just that. It's our pleasure to recognize Gabby and Ben as Parents of the Month for Nyssa School District. I'd like to thank them for the commitment to their children, our staff, and their activities. The Bakers are parents to current NSD students Aiden, who is 7th grade, Penelope, who's in 2nd grade, and Grayson, who's in kindergarten. The Bakers are wonderful supporters of our kids and all the children of Nyssa School District. They spend numerous hours helping and volunteer with Nyssa Youth Athletics. We appreciate their amazing role models for other parents and our students. They want our kids to have great experiences with their friends, their teammates, and their coaches. We appreciate that they always find the time to support the Bulldogs. We appreciate they're willing to volunteer the time to assist in any capacity. It's heartwarming to know that we can always partner with them to address any need that may arise. They're invested in the success of their children and are willing to do the hard work as parents to help improve the outcome of everyone involved. Congratulations on your honor, and thanks for being such wonderful parents to your children and all the children in this school. One more. Miss Angie Davis, come on down. Angie gets to be our Nyssa School District Employee of the Month. We don't always get to celebrate stuff that we don't know about, and so today is an opportunity to do that. Angie moved to the middle school and took over our ELD program, our English Learning and Development program. Didn't have a lot of background in it. Had obviously some training in that. Worked out at the elementary level, but came in and said, "Hey, I'm going to do everything I can to make this position my own." Also did some really great things that we'll talk about in terms of figuring out our monitoring processes for our kids that within that program to monitor their progress at the high school and the middle school both to see that they're on track. That includes kids that have also exited from the program and met proficiency at some point to make sure that they're still making academic progress that's on grade level. And she's been looking at that really hard. So I'm going to read this. Ms. Gomez wrote this because they spent a lot of time together, so she wanted me to share this. It's going to be your day. Angie's driven to learn and grow as an educator. She has participated in GLAD training and attended the EL Alliance Conference to learn about best practices for supporting EL students. Upon return from this conference, she started collaborating with colleagues and discussing plans to co-plan and co-teach. Angie is very willing to implement new initiatives to help increase student outcomes, including implementing a new program called Flashlight and introducing Elevation Math, both programs for EL students. She's also willing to pilot Stone to Grow, a program to help support social and emotional learning. If you visit any of Angie's classes, you'll find her students working hard, engaged in rigorous learning activities. Angie has worked hard to improve the EL program at the secondary level. She helped to improve the EL student monitoring progress by reaching out to colleagues from other districts, creating documents and facilitating the process with middle school and high school. She also led professional development for her colleagues. She regularly goes above and beyond her duties, including the Title III parent meeting in the evening, learning Spanish on her own time, and giving up her prep period to ensure that Title III rules are met. Angie's been a great addition to the middle school. She's an outstanding educator who greatly cares about her students and has high expectations for them. The middle school feels very fortunate you chose to work with us. Congratulations.
Mr. Kleber, high school?
Right. So the high school had a problem. We only had 2 months left. We had about 15 students that we need to recognize. But we did make a decision. And so this student is a senior, has a 4.0 GPA, has 98% attendance, and is a true joy to have at our school. Amber Levitt, come on down. So, I don't know how many of you know Amber. It's been wonderful to have her in our school. And the only thing wrong with her is that she's a senior. I would gladly swap with a freshman so I could keep her for 4 more years, but that's not going to happen. She's going to go on to bigger and better and awesome things. But let's see. I'll start with Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb says, Amber Levitt works as hard as any student who Mr. Lamb has in class this year. She is conscientious and methodical and always produces excellent quality work. She does the job correctly the first time. In addition, Amber is kind, considerate, and a pleasure to be around. Besides being a great student, I know Amber would be a fantastic employee. Student of the Month is very much deserved. I kind of like that. This is meant to see. Yeah, 10 years from now, who knows? Okay. Mr. Beck says, Amber is always so pleasant to work with. She is always wearing a smile, even when you can tell she is stressed from classes. I appreciate her hard work in class and doing her best to incorporate what she is learning. She works extremely well with others and is a leader of the group activities. Amber is a very deserving student for this award. Congratulations. And then Mrs. Watts. Amber is a hardworking, dedicated student who was a pleasure to have in class last year. I have also enjoyed working with her in National Honor Society Student Council. Every conversation I have with Amber is pleasant. She's always kind and she has a great sense of humor. She is also incredibly thoughtful, both in her academic work and her interactions with others. Congratulations. And so I just wanted to add a few things that those 3 teachers left out. So Amber recently took 2nd place in state for HOSA for laboratory science and is qualified to compete at the ILC International Conference in Dallas, Texas this June. Amber is not only an outstanding student who is respectful and pleasant, she has a glow about her that lifts burdens and inspires others to be their best. She truly makes her school a better place. I would gladly swap her for one of our freshmen as she will be just after graduation. And so she's the real deal. I'm proud of Amber. And yeah, she's very deserving. So, never ask a guy to pick the right size shirt. Okay? This is in case you didn't get dinner or need a snack after dance, because she had to rearrange her schedule to be here. And then here's the official.
High school or elementary school?
Good evening, everybody. What would you like to start?
So I have the pleasure of announcing our K through 3 Student of the Month. So Ms. Bryn Hawkins, would you come up, please? Okay, come sit right here. Okay. Ms. Delgado says, Bryn is an absolute wonder to have in class. She walks in the room with a smile on her face and is ready to start the day with a great attitude. Bryn is ready to learn and willing to help others when they are struggling, always willing to take on extra roles and responsibilities in the classroom. I can count on her to call me out if I make a mistake. Keep up the great work, Bryn. And then her former 3rd grade teacher said, the accomplishment of Student of the Month is very appropriate for you. You are a model student that every teacher dreams of having in their classroom. You are strong academically, a friend to everyone, and constantly striving to get better at everything that you do. From the first day meeting you, I knew you were a special kiddo and student. I love to read, a girl after my own heart. You have taken 27 AR tests this school year and have an average reading level of a 4.5, and you have earned 53 AR points. The joy that I see when you are reading makes me happy to see that. Keep loving reading. You have mastered all 4 of your math operations. When you started the year, your iReady score was at a 438. Your score is now a 470, which is above grade level standard. And you continue to strive for more growth every time you test. You were in the yearbook club, and you were a true leader. You listened, participated, offered suggestions, and helped others when they were needing help. Thank you for helping make our yearbook successful this year. I'm honored and blessed to be able to say that I was your teacher. I know that you are going places, and one day when you are famous, please remember your first 3rd grade teacher. Congratulations.
Not over yet.
Okay, and our 4th, 5th grade student of the month is Jonathan Trujillo. Jonathan, would you come on up? Jonathan is a 4th grader in our dual language program, and Mrs. Aguas on the English side says that Jonathan always has a smile. Even tough assignments don't dim his enthusiasm to learn. I enjoy having Jonathan in class because of his eagerness and willingness to explain answers. He is conscientious about his assignments and completes them with full pup pride. Jonathan has many friends and is quick to include others in his group or game. Keep up the fine work, Jonathan. And Mr. Segura on the Spanish side says that Jonathan has been such a great student this whole school year. When he comes to school, he always has a smile on his face and a positive attitude. I've never seen him upset or unwilling to do something. He's respectful and easy to get along with. I can always count on a smile and to make me laugh. He has just been a great leader and a very hard worker. He's also a great example of our dual language program. Not only is he high academically in English, but in Spanish as well. As a 4th grader in Spanish, he is at a 7th grade reading level. Increíble. Has hecho un gran trabajo este año, Jonathan. Sigue trabajando duro y vas a ver muy exitoso. Y a los padres tenemos una traducción aquí de felicidades, Jonathan.
If all of you who got an award tonight could step out in the hall for pictures, don't forget to grab a snack on the way out. You're welcome to come back if you'd like.
Thanks, everybody. Congratulations. Yes, that too.
Mr. Carlton has graciously made snacks to help yourself.
Don't mistake him. Yeah, sorry.
I'm not sure.
My grandson's worse than all of us. Okay, we're going to move on to the visiting patrons. Mr. Fuentes. Yes, it is. Come on up, Gabe.
I'll make it short and sweet.
Right. So obviously I give you guys all a folder. Obviously we're dealing with what we've been dealing with. I just want to make sure that there's a narrative out there. We're not putting anything out there, right? Our job is to make sure we cooperate with everything OD is saying. Open investigation knows, everyone knows we can't comment on anything. I'm not saying there's a false narrative. I'm not saying there's an accurate narrative. There's a narrative out there. I just like to give factual stuff so that you have it in your hands, so at least you understand like factual things. And no, there's no opinion in any of this. It's all stuff straight from ODE or OMS within our program. So I'll give you a brief rundown of what it is really quick. That first document you're seeing right there would be the flow chart of how a COE, which is a certificate of eligibility, is created and the process that goes through for eligibility and processing. Okay. The second handout you have in there will be your, I want to say it's your numbers. All right. If you notice on the numbers there, the totals in 2016 and 2017 and 2017 and 2018 are floating around the 1,000 range, right? So 1,000 students in our consortium. The group currently in charge of the MEP program didn't take over any part of this leadership until 2019-20, or actually 18-19 would be my first year. Okay. Numbers speak for themselves, right? There's quality control. You can tell, obviously, there's been a change immediately, correct? The next document will be your CIC document, all right? The CIC document is your continuous improvement cycle. That is how these programs are developed, and it's a plan on how you're supposed to implement it, and then how you're supposed to update that implementation once you actually start the process of creating those positions. Okay. So before I get into the next handout, I'll give you guys a little bit of a history on the migrant program. Right, luckily I've been here for 20 years, right? I grew up here in this community. As far as what I knew in the migrant program was I was in it as a kid. I didn't know what it meant, right? I went to summer school. That's kind of what I knew of it. And then I came back, started working for a district. I started working summer school as an IA. I just knew I helped kids. I didn't really know what it meant, or I didn't know exactly what the eligibility was. I knew that we were obviously helping migrant students. That was what it was. In 2017, Jana Iverson asked me if I was interested in being a graduation specialist for the migrant program. It was a new position started to the state that they were thinking about developing for the 18-19 school year. So I go, great. I'd like to do that. I'd like to, see what this is about. Went to trainings. I figured out what migrant eligibility is, kind of mind, a lot of different things. Like, all right, well, that's what it is. All right, I never knew all these years what this program was. Now I know. In 2018-19, I was asked to take over the program. Number one, I am the supervisor. I know it says coordinator all over. I am the migrant program supervisor. I was hired under that title because I was also the labor union president for the classified for over a decade. So obviously I understood contracts. I understood making sure payroll was right, making sure hours were right, and all the things that come with managing people, right? I really knew that really well because I knew our contract really well. So being the fact that I was the first person in that role as a grad specialist, the first person the migrant program had as a specialist period,
and I had the experience, I became a supervisor by applying for the job, right? I'm a supervisor now. That's 2018-19. So in 2018-19, the district decides, just like all 17 regions in the state, they decided they're going to implement a school readiness specialist, a family engagement specialist, and a graduation specialist. And those were started in 2018-19 school year, okay? If you look on the CIC, it tells you there's a plan of how that's supposed to be implemented and when that's supposed to be updated. Well, if you look on the update, that's 1920. What happened in 1920? Exactly. COVID. So, in 1920, obviously a lot of districts and regions didn't even have those positions in place. We actually full staffed it right away, got it full going. The relationship with ODE, our Title I-C director, and Oregon Migrant Education Service Institute, which we call OMESC, right? There's tons of acronyms in our world. So OMESC and ODE are our two lead agencies. ODE is the director, OMESC works right below them, and then they disseminate all the information and processes to us at the local level, which is us at the region. Okay, so that's kind of how it works, right? ODE, OMESC, us. So during that time, your next handouts go into all the special positions. If you look on there, it's 18 through 20, right? It's talking about the implementation phase, and it goes through the whole gambit of what we're supposed to do, when we're going to update it. Okay. As I said before, COVID happened. Obviously, that didn't happen the way it was planned by anybody's means, all right? But it wasn't anybody's fault. During that time as well, ODE director retired, and the entire OMS team was replaced. Okay, so everybody that created these positions, all the lead specialists at the state level at OMS were all gone. So anybody who created the CIC and created all these plans for us to follow, all our training, and gave us all of our state trainings are gone. Okay, the only person left was the administrative assistant and the tech guy who is now the family engagement specialist. All right, so the tech guy and the administrative assistant are the only two people left. So obviously in that time, there's also a change of leadership at ODE. At that time, the interim director, Susan Murkowski, steps in. Did a great job, great working with Susan. She stepped in an interim basis. I think she's still in charge of one of the federal programs at ODE. Very great to work with. Obviously, she came in during COVID, tough time, but she did a good job working with us. So we followed, obviously, the guidance for our specialists through that whole time. I gave you guys different samples of the different guidance that we used to get from OMS. The one thing I do want to stress is the relationship with ODE and OMS has always been a very close relationship. They are our big brother and our guidance. The relationship with OMS and our local level regions was phenomenal, right? The relationship our specialists had with their lead specialist at OMS was great. They praised our specialists. We had a really good working relationship. I can say out of their 17 regions, there was 3 regions in particular that were always kind of talked about all the services we had. That would be Ontario, Woodburn, and us. So we were really kind of the lead in a lot of those meetings. When they use examples, they would ask one of our specialists to talk during the trainings and webinars. So we were treated like we were really part of the group that was implementing stuff and doing stuff the way they would like. And like I said, obviously that group was gone. If you guys look on these logs, I'm hoping I included this one. Did I include this one in any of your guys' stuff? Okay, perfect. All right. So, like most things in education, everything's data driven. Okay, all of our specialists, except for the family engagement specialists, our school readiness specialists, and our grad specialists, have very complex and very detailed service logs. They have to put who they meet with, why they meet with them, the date they meet with them. It's a big spreadsheet, all right? OD and OMS developed it. The people who create our business developed it. And every year we would get this printout here. Obviously, year 2 is the last time we got this. The last one you're seeing right here is the last time we got a data report. So obviously they would consolidate all of the service logs from the 17 regions in the state, and they would put it against each other. Josh Janus, our grad specialist, is actually a copy of his actual report, and there he has notes for you guys as well. where it points out how well he did in comparison to other regions in the state. We would get this every year. Obviously, this is really valuable for us to make sure that we are actually providing services like we should, and we're making the point of contact so that we are supposed to according to our training. So we haven't seen one of those since 1819. The last time we saw a graduation handbook would be 2021. At 2021, that would be the last year that Jesus Sandoval was the lead graduation specialist at OMESC. He was actually kind of the, I guess, jack of all trades there. He did a lot of lead work in all the specialist areas because he was just really in the know. He left. He was the last one to hold on. He stayed through the summer just to wrap up some loose ends, but that was the last time we got anything as far as guidance for our graduation specialist. Most of you, I think, I'm assuming everybody here's seen the monitoring document, the feedback that we got from a monitoring visit. The one thing I do want to do is make sure I speak on behalf of our team. We had a presentation here with ODE. We felt like we gave them a really good PowerPoint presentation and review and insight to what we do every day and how we provide service to our families. I thought it was really good. You have a copy of the PowerPoint. It's one of the last packages you have on there. I thought the presentation went really well. And then obviously we got the monitoring report, and our team didn't feel like that response that we got in person was the same feedback that we got. And the stuff that we got in interviews wasn't the same feedback that we got in monitoring. So I want to make sure I share that PowerPoint with you. In the PowerPoint, it does have a lot of highlights. I think one of the things that we do better than most people is we send 57 kids to Oregon Leadership Institute, which in comparison to other regions, they have a hard time sending 9 kids. We send 17 each week. All right, and we actually take other school spots. And the West Side had such a hard time filling their spots that we're actually going to fill their spots as well this summer. So we're going to take some of the Western Oregon. We can't go to Corvallis anymore, so we go to TDC, but we're going to start going back to Oregon State because they can't fill their spots. And we have kids on a wait list. So I just want to make sure I let people know that our specialists do a great job. I'm proud of our team. This is by far the best team I've had since I've been overseeing the program. One thing that wasn't also brought up in our monitoring report that we're really proud of is our OSY, which is our out-of-school youth. Out-of-school youth is really important in the migrant program because we know a lot of our kids don't make it to the end, right? They have dropouts. I think the one thing that we've done really good, and especially last year where we did I thought a phenomenal job, was we actually partnered with TDC HEP, which is the high school equivalency program through the migrant program through the state of Oregon. We had them on campus here, and we graduated 6 kids. 6 kids that wouldn't have found a way to completely, and 2 that were complete dropouts. I mean, some of you guys, if I was to say one of the kids' names, you guys know that he wasn't in school for about 3 years now. We got him to get it done. So I thought that was one thing that we did really well, was actually finding out-of-school youth that would have been a dropout, and they actually got their GED. And the nice thing about the HEP program, it rolls them into post-secondary options, would it be, if they want to go to trade school, whatever it is, or whatever they have at TC. Obviously, they have lots of CTE options now there, so it kind of helps them figure out some options for them post GED. The other document I have in here would be just a little bit of light reading. I think we all know kind of how things work. For a federal program, it goes federal, state, then local, correct? So usually if we're having to fix some things, there's usually some things at the state and at the federal level that probably are in the same boat that we're in. So here's actually a federal audit of the state federal programs in Oregon, which I think has some really good information in there. I would say recommendation 14 or 15 are really good on there. Hope they're still on there. But there's theirs. The other document I shared with you as well was July 12, 2019. Our first summer, Mr. Johnson's first summer here, my first full year running the program, running summer school, we actually had an on-site monitoring visit from ODE. At that time, Deborah Lang was the instructor of education. Federal Systems Director at that time, Deborah Lang, and obviously John LaFurneaux was the ODE migrant director, time once director. There's a copy of the report. Nothing but good things to say, nothing but good things to say about our team. This was in person, done on site with people who actually developed our program. All right, they kind of knew what we were there. The people who've been working there for a while. And like I said, the last piece was PowerPoint presentation. It goes over all our specialists. This covers the 21-22 school year. It has a lot of really good information. I'll let you kind of know what all of our specialists are doing. This and our state numbers for the past 7 years are on our school website as well. So they are available online. They've been on this for a while now. Now, the last piece that I do want to address a little bit with is the part I talked about, the narrative. In defense to the district, when we're getting asked lots of questions, we know we can't answer certain things, which doesn't stop people from putting out whatever they want to put out. I included in there emails from a gentleman who asked us to get lots of information for him. And they create stories that don't include the information that they asked for. So I have the emails with the information that I gave them, which is a lot of factual numbers information, all right? I'll give, for example, they asked about the close-up trip that we took recently. What is the percentage of students from Bell and Adrian going? I gave that number, all right? It's 66% of Bell students, 66% of Adrian students are going, 18% of Nyssa kids are going. So that was information that could have been shared. So I included those emails for you. You have the responses back with the information they could have put on there if they wanted to, if they want factual stuff. Okay, I included that on there as well. I also did include, if you notice, there's photos and stuff in there. Actually, no. I'm gonna leave this with. I'll leave this with Susan, and you guys can share that. Within there is our comprehensive needs assessment, which is what we use to follow our entire program. Here is a stack of communications with Bell, Adrian, and our specialists, and that's not all of them. We just pulled a little sample size, right? This is just part of last year, just to show that we do communicate with Bell and Adrian. And then here is purchases, and then examples of pictures of other regions in the migrant programs throughout Oregon that have the exact same purchases that we have. I just want to give you guys examples. And then close up, which is a trip that's been on our, we've talked about a lot lately. There's actually, it's on the ODE migrant website as well, or OMS website. And they actually give us a handout that says federal funding guide, and it says it fits every federal funding guideline. So there's a handout for that. This packet, I'd ask that you guys keep this one together because I don't have another copy of it. You guys look at it, but the rest of it is yours. Okay? Oh, and I also included in here pictures of migrant summer school back to 1981. We've been in charge of migrant summer school for over 40 years. And I labeled it inside. You can take a look at it with the different labels on it, but there's labels in it as well. I think that's all I got. Actually, I will give you a copy of this to my little talking points, so that way you have it to reference your phone. Okay?
Wow, thank you for all your hard work. We appreciate it.
Yep. And like I said, I have no problem answering any questions. You guys are more than welcome to come by the office. I will sit down with you, explain it as best as I can to you. The big reason like I said, is I can take the criticism. You can say what you want, but I think Mr. Johnson, we sat with our team, and I felt it from him. This person I really felt like, all right, now they're starting to feel it. I don't like that. But that's a group that works really hard for our community, so I just want to make sure that you guys know what they're doing, what they're supposed to do. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to our superintendent's report.
Yeah, if you can find your paper, it's gonna be short today, I hope. Sometimes, right? Thank you, Gabe, appreciate you sharing those things. As we always have, the enrollment is at the very top for our students, so we can keep track of that. I wanted to report on number 2, the integrated grant reporting, which is new this year. We've had a lot of help with that. With Crystal Rideau, she's a superstar in many ways, and Kelsey Skinner from the ESD, it's her position, and so Mr. Hawkins jumped in and helped with that this year as well, and this has all been submitted to ODE for that compliance. Just wanted to report that to our board. Number 3, migrant education. Gabe did a good job of reporting what he did, and my only statement about that is that The Oregon Department of Education will be in our school district tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday as part of the continuing review of our program, and we will welcome them and continue to cooperate with them. We've invited all board members who can come. ODE has asked that board members only come to the kickoff meeting tomorrow morning at 8:45, and then the end meeting, which is Thursday at 10. So I believe that's what they've asked. But if there's anything else, you can ask tomorrow if you'd like to be there.
Are they visiting Adrian and Vale?
I believe they visited Vale last time. I think the agenda is to visit Adrian this time, not Vale. But I might be mistaken.
And they're just doing the consortium, and they're not going to Ontario.
No, not that I know. It's just our consortium, Adrian, Vale, and Nyssa. So the last thing, and this is where I was saying I was hoping it was going to be a short report, but we'll see. We need to talk about calendars. And tonight is the night. And there's an item on your agenda tonight for you to vote on a calendar. But I just wanted to review a little bit that you have in your packets. We have provided some updated calendars. Mr. Hawkins and our calendar committee worked very hard, very diligently to do that. We had a volunteer, Anna Long, kind of, I don't know, format it so it was a lot easier to read, the numbers, the colors, all those things. She worked with Mr. Hawkins on Friday to give an update. We have provided some of those updates to you that are different than the calendars that came in your packet. Just slightly different, just a little cleaner, easier to read. As you can see, I have summarized, or Mr. Hawkins has summarized on this sheet, if you can see, each of the calendars. So there's, if you look at those calendars, there's one up the top left, 1, 2, and 3. So they are represented in this grid right here about how they look. You know, each of you have had time to look at these. Just talking about student days, teacher days, instructional hours, any change from the previous that would be, and any estimated budget increases there. So calendar number 1, if you look at that, is a calendar that describes the calendar year is pretty much the same. The beginning and the ending days are the same. It is the same in the length of the day. And we have added in there some enrichment Fridays. Those are the green numbers. Enrichment Fridays are when students come and participate with teachers in enrichment activities that are different than the regular curriculum that they're following. It still follows curriculum, but it just is a little...
So it's not a tutorial?
Typically not. It's an enrichment. So it can be that if that's what students need, but we're trying to enrich students, and that's going to be new to teachers. But I want to just, as you'll look, the teacher days are here in between those two colored boxes at the bottom, as well as reflected right here in this grid. So if you'll follow those, you kind of keep track of what that would look like.
So are the enrichment days required school days?
They are required school days, yes. Calendar number 2.
Oh,
Go ahead, yes.
What time does school start? It's going to be consistent through all of these calendars?
No, there are changes. So this one, because we have enrichment days, those count as student contact hours. So we don't need to extend the day or extend the year. Calendar number 2, I believe, is extending the day. It goes until 3:30 instead of 3:06.
School still starts at?
Starts August.
No, time.
Starts the same time, yes, 8 o'clock. And ends at 3:30 on number 2. Calendar number 3, it begins at 8 o'clock, ends at 3:06, as we are currently doing, like calendar number 1. But because we need to make up the seat hours, it goes longer in the year. It goes into the first week of June. So that's calendar number 3. Mr. Hawkins, any additions there?
Yeah. No. So they're all 4-day, right? I mean,
All
and then,
4 days. All 5
and
days.
so it is those seat hours that you have to find ways to get those hours. And option 1 is enrichment that's required for everybody. Option 2, we extend the day. and option 3 up to extending year. So that's where those hours are being made up to at least get that 990. So
On these teacher in-service school improvement days, what specifically is that going to entail for teachers?
it depends, right, on the time of year. Like the one in December, January, that's always testing training. And so we have special ones there. The ones in October and April are always county PD days. And so, and I was talking to Bobby today, we had, there's like the suicide risk and prevention that we have to get done, and so it depends on the year and the need. But we've also allowed ourselves to have a little more time to meet some district goals. And so
We also have a new math curriculum as well.
yeah, new math curriculum we're adopting, so yeah.
Can you help me understand a little bit more about the enrichment? I'm concerned about putting more strain on the teachers, not necessarily a change in how much time they're teaching, but adding yet another thing that they're expected to do. Can you speak on that?
Good question. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
You were part of the
So the enrichment is kind of on both. It is that opportunity for students who need help and have smaller group time with teachers, but it's a time when, and I think of high school, right, where we're not going further, we're actually going deeper into the content, and so teachers can plan those different activities to go deeper, not trying to blow through curriculum, but really enrich those students who are passing and need more. And so in elementary, we look at maybe we want to do some. I was kind of thinking maybe some outdoor things, or it gives us those opportunities. How it's taken is based on the teacher, right? Or it's we didn't get through this week. We're gonna go through a little bit, but it is really an opportunity that we're not expected to continue to plow through. We have time set for kids to help make up work, to work in smaller groups, but also for teachers on the other end, where I think of that kind of the hamburger or the sandwich on the other end. I talked to a board member the other day. Is like those tag opportunities, those things that we can actually help push kids further. And so not only are we meeting those kids who need more, we're also these kids who actually need more on top to continue to go forward rather than be stifled. So it is going to be crafted a lot with our administrators and our teachers. So what does that look like for our buildings? And I know that the middle school on Tuesdays, they kind of have this kind of roaming OTI already. It's going to kind of look like that, I would imagine. So, but it is based on student needs and buildings.
That is a really good question, a concern to say, are we adding more to teachers than they're doing? We're not trying to do that. We're trying to allow them the time to make up stuff with kids who need that, enrich other kids who need that.
You had mentioned OTI. How would that affect on calendars 2 and 3 just 2, on the one that gets out at 3:30? What is that going to do for the OTI program for the kids?
That's a good question. Right now, as it is with everything, the contracts are as they are, that you wouldn't have that opportunity.
There would be no OTI.
No, not currently. And so unless we extend the school day even further for the teachers, right? But there has to be opportunities for sped meetings, for things like that have to occur that we need to kind of still work out. But that is just everything the way it is without working through that. So
the teachers still stay till 3:45?
Yep.
So you need us to vote on one of these?
Well, not right now. There will come a point on the agenda where you do. We just wanted to have part of this discussion during my report where you can ask questions. So if you look at calendar number 1, we've talked about a 4-day week, right? And so community had a lot of opportunity to give input over several different times. Calendar committee studied this for many weeks and months. And so the desire that I think the board said was a 4-day week. And so if you look at the enrichment calendar of number 1, there are many days, many weeks where there's, so for example, in September, the second month of school, if there is school, no school on a Monday, there's Labor Day on September 4th, then you do go on Friday as a student day. So it's a 4-day week, right? The following week is a 5-day week because of enrichment. The week after that is a 4-day week for students, and the last week of September is also a 4-day week for students, but teachers will be here during an in-service. So I think, in some ways this is kind of perhaps an interim, an easy move into a 4-day week because it's not every Friday is a full 4-day, not every week is a full 4-day week because some weeks have the enrichment. Calendar 2 extends the day and does correspond as Mr. Hawkins has addressed with our OTI.
And can I ask about calendar 2? It says here the estimated increase in the budget is like the other two combined. What would be the reason for that increase in?
Extended day.
Yes,
Increase.
for calendar 2.
I'm trying to remember. So Mr. Hawkins and I had talked about, it's mainly with our classified staff, right? So if we don't have people coming on Fridays, then teachers do have come on Fridays most of the time. They work Fridays, but we don't have. What are bus drivers and what are cafeteria workers going to do? So it's mainly with our cafeteria workers because they only get paid by serving lunches. And so if they're not serving lunches on a Friday, we have to give in service to them, but we're not collecting money for them. So they're like the rest of the employees, still coming to work, but they're not generating the income that they would on a 5-day week. So that's where those costs come from, in making sure that our employees are not losing money. Is that correct, Mr. Hawkins?
So what happens with the bus drivers?
They will just do trainings on those days. But we believe that we can get reimbursed through the state for those trainings. We cannot do that for lunches. So lunches have to be serving. That's why the cost. Bus drivers can be reimbursed for being here doing trainings.
So I gotta throw this out there. We also have a 5-day calendar here that's just like basically what we're doing right now. Are we sure that one of these 4-day calendars is better than that? I want everybody to contemplate that when we're looking at the other 3 here.
I would like to note also that all the schools around us are doing a 4-day week. I'm sorry, I went there and I talked to some people, and it's on their website, but they're all, Parma, Fruitland, Ontario, Vale, and Adrian are all doing 4-day weeks. I don't know what their scores are as far as their testing, but it is hard for, let's look at it, our students, those who want to have a weekend job, to compete with kids who are available on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, plus athletics. Our athletic calendars are going to be changing because 4-day weeks are becoming, as far as schools, are becoming much more common. So, those are thoughts we have to keep in mind. Also, the other schools around all have about 148, 150 days, student days.
And you can look at the calendars down at the bottom. It totals the student contact days, the teacher work day, teacher days. So everything that we have listed here meets the state requirements for seat time. It meets all contract requirements too. Yes.
So, are you?
I don't know which one you.
Go first.
Is there a reason why the teachers come in so often without kids in class a month?
For teacher trainings. Yeah, like Mr. Hawkins addressed that, I think there's quite a few trainings that we're required to do by the state. Like, again,
certain months though, or every month?
Certain months they're prescriptive, kind of required by us. For example, the state testing training, everybody has to take that in January. But if earlier in the year we have curriculum that teachers are still learning, again, math is being adopted and teachers will need time in order to collaborate with each other and how's it working for you, this is new or rolling this new enough. So
So one of the biggest complaints that I hear from some parents and students is there are a few teachers that don't get their grades inputted in time. Is this gonna help? I mean, is this gonna give them more time to do that? I've been hearing it a lot lately because the kids don't know where they are, so they don't know what work they might be able to do. Is this gonna improve that?
Yeah, guaranteed, right? Mr. Jackman, Mr. Cleaver.
Well, and that's one of the things that should happen during LTI. The student being affects the teacher, and they can have that communication.
We're trying to make sure.
I love the fact that with Synergy, all the grades are posted online, and so there's a certain built-in accountability.
They're posted on there if they're graded and entered in.
If they're graded and entered in, that's correct. And so that is an emphasis that we need to be aware of to make sure that kids and those conscientious students are being able to be fair. Everybody, every student can be able to access that and know where they are. So good point.
So maybe I'm asking questions about a calendar nobody's interested in, but calendar 3, the extended school year, is that one we want to take off the table, or should I ask a question about it?
Just ask a question.
Summer school would be affected by an extended school year, so how does that affect our 11-month contracted staff members?
Well, go ahead, Mr.
It doesn't affect them, right? So our, you look at your year-long ones, which are your maintenance and your front office staff. They're going to be here. So summer schools run different from them.
Okay.
So.
But I know that Crystal, she probably gets, we run summer school through June because it's a fiscal year. The end of the fiscal year is June 30th. So I know Crystal would be like, oh no, we're going into the next fiscal year if we push that into July because it's typically 4 weeks, right? So go ending school, regular school, the first week of June puts summer school into the following week or 2, which pushes it into July and creates some financial challenges. But it can be done.
It can be done, it's just not as clean as it could be.
Is there one of these that you would recommend? Not that we would necessarily choose that, but what is your recommendation?
Well,
The 5 days.
I've made it clear to the board that I'm a 5-day proponent. However, on the 4 days, I actually like calendar number 1. It's a lot, to me, it offers the teachers an opportunity to, and students, we don't go cold turkey 4-day week. We allow students the opportunity to come in and get help if they're struggling, to not be added on to new homework being piled onto them, and teachers to enrich. And frankly, we have had some concerns about wanting to figure out how we're addressing the needs of our tag students, students who are gifted and need challenged. And I think calendar number 1 gives that opportunity. It maintains our school day and our school year. As the same as we know it gives quite a few Fridays off, but there's also a lot of Fridays where we do come.
It looks like the teachers will only get 1 Friday a month off.
That's more than the Fridays off they're getting now.
The first
And we'll say calendar 1, just I apologize, is that one actually mirrors most of our schools around us. So that's where most of those days and everything are the same as like Ontario and all that. And so that's where the structure of calendar 1 came from, was schools around us. So it mirrors that.
Did you have a comment?
I have a question. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask the question. But on on calendar 1 option, would meals be served on those enrichment Fridays? Because that would
It's
affect
required
my
for
students
students to be there.
I think it's required, yeah.
because then that would allow my kids to be there on Fridays as well.
Yes.
When most of the other 4-day calendars don't have that ability. So.
Did you have a question, Senor?
I just feel like I have information that I would really want to share, but being aware of what I'm sharing. So I've gotten some information about a recent negotiation with a neighboring school district that is going to be very, very, very appealing to employees. So I want us to keep in mind that we want to stay competitive in that sense. And I'm telling you, it's not even close. Like it's pretty concerning, and I don't want to disclose too much more than that. But when we're looking at comparative to like what teachers are working and days off they're getting, compared to neighboring school districts, this is pretty fresh information and, you know, probably you should read, but I haven't. And so, it's actually,
Are you talking salary raises and time off, or what are you talking this year?
what's that?
Are you talking salary raises and Fridays off, or?
Yeah, I mean, the district already that is in this situation already has substantially less days than us for staff, and are looking at paying, you know, substantial, big time. Like, you thought Baker's contract was nice, right? So,
Substantial.
So if you look at the 5-day calendar, teacher work days are 190. Do it on the 4-day calendar, they're 185. If you look at student days, it's 156 on the 4-day, it's 165 on the 5. So, just FYI. So that's my superintendent's report. You can continue discussion deliberation at the time when we get to that.
All right, thank you. Crystal, do we have a financial report?
Tonight I have a financial report for everything ending March 31st. Your first report in your packet is of our general fund for the month of March. Our general fund brought in almost $1.2 million worth of revenue. And our expenditure going out is a little over $1.2 million. So a little bit more went out than came in. But our cumulative balance is still sitting just above 2.6 million. We need that for our biggest month of expenditures in June. That'll quickly be wiped out. So as we approach the end of the fiscal year, we will be cautious of our purchasing to make sure we can not go over that 2.6 balance, 2.6 million. After that, of course, I have the breakdown of our LGIP, our local government investment pool that contains all of our money, a breakdown of the county taxes that we received. After that is the status of our middle school bond. We ended the month of March at $366,728. We need that to grow. I believe our next debt service payment is in June, and our payment is around $390,000. So we still need to collect some taxes in that account. Following that report is the statement for that account's LGIP, breakdown of the taxes that we received. Following that, I provided you with an early Head Start operating statement for the month of March, but I put the month of February, so I gave you updated reports. The numbers didn't change, but I corrected the date because that's confusing. Anyway, so our total revenue for this fiscal year in that fund is a little over $338,000. Our expenses have been a little over $296,000. So we ended the month of March a little over $42,000. Operating statement for food service is next. The month of March it's rough because we have spring break, and so when we don't serve meals, we don't get that reimbursed rate, and so our revenue was less than most months. And but we still ended the month of March at a little over $51,000. So that's good as we approach summer months and still have that payroll, but we'll be serving less meals, say in June. So after that, I provided our payroll report for the month of March. Shows how every employee of this district is paid from what fund. And then I have provided to you the approval of the bills report. Everything that the district paid out from March 4th, the last time I ran the report at the last meeting, to April 3rd. Did anyone have any questions as you looked over that? When you got your packets in the mail and studied them? I know you did.
Does this approval of the bill report include Miller Matches?
Yes, it does. That particular invoice is paid out of the general fund, so it will be towards the beginning of that report.
question. With the Miller Nash, if we continue to draw that much every month, what's that gonna do to us?
So we have already exceeded what was budgeted for fiscal year for legal services. So we start pulling from other funds, right, that we haven't spent yet. Once we exhaust all of that, then we start hitting our contingency fund, which is what we promised that we won't touch, right? That's our emergency money. So,
But is this not an emergency, defending our migrant program?
In the district.
Because it depends on the district, I guess it depends on how you look at it, but I
It
feel like
depends what the board wants to do.
to defend our migrant program in our district, it's worth it. That's just me.
yeah, not my call, I just report numbers, so that's a board call.
Have you drawn from almost all of the sources you have left? You still have sources?
Not yet, right now I'm just drawing from the board's budget.
So we have no money.
You guys have no money. You had more to talk about? Yes. So I had provided, the very front sheet was yellow, that's your copy to put on your fridge for our upcoming budget committee meeting. We're gonna meet on May 2nd, it's at 6 p.m. in this room, and I will have dinner for you guys, so I encourage you to come. I think we talk about it later in the meeting, but we, I don't think, applicants for all of our budget positions, and so we will have one, I think, vacant position, puts more pressure on my board members to show up. If I don't have a full budget committee, then I need my board members there so we can get something passed. And then, oh, sorry.
So 7 plus 7, right? The budget committee is supposed to be 7, the board is supposed to be 7. So we need to have a quorum of 14, which is 8. There has to be at least 8. Well, a quorum of board members need to be there too. So.
Is there stipulations online on what qualifications a person needs to have to be in the budget committee?
I don't think so. I think
Do
just
they need to live within the school boundaries?
Yes.
within the boundary, yes.
And you can't be an employee of the district.
So you just have to have a quorum of each, right? 4 of the board and 4 of the.
You actually
budget.
combine it, that's what I learned in my
Okay,
training.
so we just need 8 people, okay.
And if that is wrong, then I will let you guys know,
Well,
but that's,
We definitely have to have a quorum of the board. Yes.
Right.
so please make sure you put that on your calendar. And I'm sure Mr. Johnson will be calling you, because I'll probably ask him to.
Now, Crystal, I want to know, are you cooking or is Fred?
I don't cook. Freddie's cooking.
I just married a chef.
That's why you marry a chef. Okay, and then I was asked to kind of provide just a budget update, how it's going. So I am currently still working on the budget. It's progressing. It's going slower than I want it to be. I think this time last year I already had a budget made and was reviewing it. I'm not there yet. We have decided to build our budget off of the governor's budget of $9.9 billion. There was talks about a $10.5 billion budget at the governor's level. I don't think they're going to reach it. I think there's even more communication today that said it's probably not happening. I think it's the more conservative route to go, which I feel our budget committee is more conservative. So that's the direction I've been taking, build off the $9.9 billion governor's budget. Per ODE guidance, I reached out to them. I know the board had asked to take my Tech High money and put it in the special revenue fund away from the general fund. With their guidance, I am not going to be splitting out the My Tech High revenue into a special revenue account. It's going to stay within the general fund because My Tech High revenue is state school fund money. And state school fund money goes in the general fund. But what I will continue to do is still have that My Tech High account within the general fund that we budget out our expenditures. So you'll see that, where we pay our My Tech High commission percentage to. I've been talking to Dr. Johnson. We are facing reductions next year in some of our title funding. This is presenting a challenge to us as our payroll costs increase every single year. And now if we're gonna be faced with federal grants decreasing, we got a problem. We don't have enough money to cover our payroll costs. So we've been working with Darren on what changes we can make to the structure of our budget to hopefully keep our service levels the same for next year. So we're still working on that. I think that's the biggest thing right now in our budget.
Thank you for bringing bringing that up. I think it's a debate between because the federal funds are reducing and we gave a what we consider to be a really generous raise, as probably our staffs deserve those. And so, but when you have reductions, then you have to figure out what to do. The board, again, as I've always said, the board needs to decide how to spend the MyTech High money. We can start looking at layoffs, or we can say MyTech High money will cover it this year as we look forward to how that's going to roll out in the future.
However, those federal grants will probably not increase.
No. And I believe, Crystal, as you said, we're $160,000 short.
I think between the three programs that we're coming up short, it's about that much.
With the current classified staffing that we have for instructional assistants who are paid out of those federal funds. And frankly, I do have to say this, if I look at Mrs. White, she's our special ed director. We have a lot of high needs special ed students who you can't really reduce services that they receive, right? So we got to figure out what do we do there. We're a high impact elementary school where the instructional assistants we employ are, and this book can speak how they're assigned to classrooms, but that level of support is very, very important to children who are Title I-A, struggling to learn to read, right? I mean, Mrs. Ramos, you've been there, done that. Better to have more help. Anyway, it's $160,000 is the budget where we are short from federal funds this coming school year.
This coming or this current?
Well, not current.
Not current. Next.
And how much did we make from MyTech High project?
420? I don't know.
400,000-ish.
How short are we gonna be?
160.
160 short?
Plus, we may be still looking at Miller Nash.
Right.
So this is why I don't have a budget for you guys yet. Anyway, so, but I must, per our calendar that was adopted in February, I must have a finished first draft budget by April 28th. So that is my goal. And that's what I will be doing the next 15 days of my life. So, and then also, some of you haven't been a part of a budget committee meeting. It goes, you're welcomed, and then Mr. Johnson gives his budget message, and then I go through the budget page by page, account number by account number. And it's a lot, but it's really good that everyone understands where the money goes and why our budget is built the way it is.
2 years ago was 1 hour, last year was 2 hours, so I had more questions last year, which is fine. We did have good food.
Yeah, that'll be good food. And I won't cook it, so that's all I have for you guys, unless you have any other questions for me.
Thank you for your.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to look at the consent agenda. Do you have any questions on it?
I do have some questions. I sent an email to Garen. Because I was a little confused on why we had the way it was with the English instructors. I did not understand that.
The dates or timing or whatever.
The dates and the timing, and I did not realize we were hiring 2 individuals. So, and you explained that. And I was also concerned that we did not have any more than 1 applicant for the elementary assistant principal position.
Oh, we have quite a few. 1 in district.
1 in district.
Yeah. Quite a few out of district.
That chose not to interview out of district.
Yeah, we chose not to interview out of district based on, of course, the board has not voted on this, not made a specific motion, but there has been some interest by the school board, some direction to consider highly our in-district applicants who are highly qualified and have shown some loyalty to our district. So.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
I am excited to see that we have an applicant for the choir.
Yes. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, let's go to old business, middle school girls wrestling. Somewhere we got a budget for that. I think it looks like this. So we need a decision tonight.
I would like one just so I know whether I'm putting it in the budget or not. For next year.
And yes,
Is there
I'm
money
gonna
for
ask, this is 23-24, correct?
I think that's a Mr. Johnson question. You just heard the situation. I don't know.
Is there money for it?
Well, if you remember, we added baseball, we added softball, and those were not in the budget this year, and it would look like, oh, it's just 20,000 here, 20,000 there, and now it's, well, 15,000 there. So, every little bit adds to, and it's a decision the board wants to make to save our students, and it does make some level of sense, I agree, that if we have a high school program, then we have a feeder program, right? To say, well, we can't be competitive if we're not getting kids early and teaching them skill level and working on those things, so it is important for that in a lot of ways. My concern was then, and it is now, that we try to budget in advance rather than budget backwards.
Right.
So,
I guess one of my concerns is, I mean, I don't want to spend any more money, but the boys get it, right?
I was going to ask, was it Title IX?
yes. Yes, I
So
do.
if the boys get it,
Why?
Title IX, the girls.
It's a really good point.
I mean, is it even a question?
No, I think discussion over. We'll just bring it back.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion either way?
I would make a motion that we approve the addition of the middle school girls wrestling.
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion is carried.
And Crystal, you can find the money, right?
I'll let you know at the budget meeting. I'll
Do
put
you
it
need a
in.
copy of it?
No, I have it. Oh, thank you.
Okay, next is the calendar. Is there any that somebody thinks we should throw out of those three? I just think, in my personal opinion, that if we go into June, that would really mess up summer school, and there would be, usually, I did summer school for 30 years, and that 1 week off is, you needed to catch your breath before you start summer school, and they would not get a week off. That's just my,
Ontario does their summer school in July.
Really?
the whole month of July.
It can be done.
So they get like a month off and then do summer school, then get a couple weeks off before regular school starts. But how would that mess up? Because I know their budget starts.
Our fiscal year starts July 1.
So you just
I think it's just mandatory that we have to be in summer school for 20 days. Correct me if I'm wrong, any administrator here.
I just think if we're concerned about learning loss, that would be one way to
Just
solve
20 days.
that. Regardless of the calendar that we pick.
Mr. DeLeon, what do the teachers think about calendar 1, 2, and 3? Just
Favor from understanding would be 3. If that's the one that sends you.
that goes into June. Because why? I mean, what they just like that, or
Well, the other ones have traditional Fridays, right? The idea is if we're gonna be here Friday, we might as well have students, right? So then you operate off the idea of being competitive with local districts. Well, in that sense, there's only one calendar really to choose from.
Is that 2?
And it reduces
the same thing.
And it reduces the learning loss, the gap that occurs in that respect.
And the day still ends at the same time.
Sorry.
And it still ends at 3:06. And that doesn't mess up the high school and middle school like your 8 periods or.
So it's 46-minute class periods, 8 periods a day.
And if you any of those calendars work on a 7-period day, the advantage of going with the 7-period day is that you gain more instructional time. It's just a big classes.
So really, if you did do the 7-period day on that calendar, you'd actually reduce the number of days that you extend to the year. But the idea would be the learning loss that occurs in the summer, so you're trying to reduce that. Right? So it almost is counterproductive to that year.
So what do you guys think about if we did the third one during summer school in July?
I would have a hard time with that because I don't think that our children would appreciate that. You know, going into June to finish up just regular school might be tough.
I don't know what usually Ontario does their summer school in July. Obviously I've done that for some time. We have not, I don't know what recruiting for teachers would be like to do that. Some might not want to do it. We have no idea, no way of doing that.
Well, we keep saying,
Did you have a comment?
Oh, no, I was thinking myself that I don't think that would go very well with this summer school.
It kind of splits up your summer.
Yeah, it does, and yeah, kind of ties you down a
My concern is our custodial staff. Because right now, summer school's over the end of June. They have July, but if we're not doing summer school till July, will we have clean buildings and will the schools be open for those teachers to set up their rooms to be ready for the first day of school? Because right now, it's limited on the amount of time our teachers, we're telling teachers that they can't come into school until like the weekend before our meetings start.
I would always start August 1st and it would take me that long to get
Bobby, can you repeat real quick, or can you come up closer? What was your comment real quick about going 7 periods a school day and shortening the school
Yeah, so like what Brett was saying is you could reduce the calendar, right, if you went to the 7-period day, but that really is, it's an afterthought, right, in my mind. The one calendar suggests the 7-period, but it really depends on what the administration decides to do. So in theory, you could vote on it and say, this is what we want. If you're going to do a 7-period day, we would reduce. But if you're not going to do 7-period day, you're going to do 8-period day, and then we send the year.
That mess up their credits or whatever.
No, because they would all meet the seat time requirements. It would cause some additional work from Ryan to look at the calendar to readjust when the quarters end. But, you know.
One more question.
Bobby made one more question.
And what was your comment that if we're gonna have teachers here, we should have students present? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, the idea, right, at that point,
Okay.
if we're gonna go from being competitive with other districts who aren't going to school on Fridays, we're gonna require our staff to be here. And the comment was, it's about students, right, about kids. Well, we already decided that students aren't gonna be here on Friday, so now it's really about being competitive so we can retain teachers, right? So, it's kind of already we've already addressed the other question.
So are you suggesting calendar 3 could be a shorter school year day-wise if it goes to 7 periods? Is that what you're saying?
It could be, yeah.
Is that your preference and the teacher's preference?
Well, I can't speak on the 7-period day on the preference. I do know when we voted for the certified staff, what teachers requested in terms of the short day would be having some Fridays that resemble other districts in terms of having those off, right? So that we could focus on retention and recruitment in that aspect. So
Who said earlier that number one was the most comparable to the schools around us?
That's what it was created off of.
I mean,
Yeah.
as much as I hate hearing, let's do something because of other schools, that's what everybody else keeps going off of. There's what everybody else is doing.
But how are they doing that? How, if this is the same or similar as other people, how are they doing that and still attracting teachers by having Fridays off?
Because there's not very many Fridays off.
No, most of the weeks are still 5.
For teachers or for students?
Both. On calendar 1, I would say you've got at least 5-day weeks, 3 weeks of the month for teachers and students, I guess.
There's 7 Fridays off.
But if you look at it, if it's a Monday off, then you work the Friday, so it's 4 day week. And so
And
that's how
I
they
still
do that.
think that as a teacher, having to prepare some enrichment, I mean, I'd love to have done art or hands-on science and stuff, but that takes a lot of prep. And, that's just adding to the teacher's plate, already up to there. Yes, Mr. Hunter.
May I make just a brief comment on
If you do a really loud rap.
May I make a brief comment on extended school day? Remember that all the middle school sports happen Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So here we are nicely saying, oh, we'll have Fridays in the high schoolers don't in the school sport. If you go extended school day. Well, if we go 4 days, now the middle schoolers are all going to be missing 25% of the week instead of 20%. And if you extend the school day and they're going to Marsing and they're going to Melbourne and they're going to Mount Crispin.
They have to get out of class early, so they miss that class time.
So unless the schedule could be changed so they can have 4 classes in the day, and that would be something.
Every calendar is
Just thought.
We could have them come in at 7, start the school day at 7:30 and get out at 3:06.
We had a hard time getting some kids out by 8.
I'm just saying.
So does anybody have a real strong preference of day?
I personally lean towards calendar 2, in large part because the student days are about the same as the other districts around us. I don't know if that's a good reason, but there are some Fridays in there where they are going to school, but it also gives time for teachers to do their in-services and such.
I was leaning towards calendar 2 also, but if you don't get out till 3:37 and you have an IEP meeting, and anything over 3:45 is whatever, extra contract time. That's kind of concerning.
Mrs. White, how's that going to work out?
Do we get comp time? Do they get comp time?
We had talked about trying to do more IEP meetings on Fridays, but that makes it hard if they're coaches or different things like that too, but, we'll try to look at some options like that.
There is creative ideas. I mean, that's working with me into extending the day of the teacher till 4, like in other places. And so, we have a lot of ideas that we can put in once we kind of get this, then how we're going to solve those issues.
And what about certain kindergarten? I mean, adding 30 minutes to the end of the day for the little ones?
Yeah, I would say not a good thing.
Do they get nap and milk and graham crackers?
I'm just thinking out loud, but the extended school day would get everyone to school if they ride the bus and home at the same time. If they needed more personalized instruction time, they could they can have a study hall, not have to stay for OPI and have transportation
graduation help is like have that extra support during school hours. On which calendar is that?
We did 2. 2 is where you extend the day.
And basically that would be in theory, basically,
Right, so they'd have to have like a study hall or something to get the help that they need.
It's less teacher days.
I just don't like going into June. I just think that would be hard.
I think it would be less familiar, but I know on the other side of the state, I graduated June 13th. So that's just, the other side of the state does it. But I realize it's unfamiliar to our area. My last work day is the 23rd of June. So it happens. My first work day was the day before.
This year-
Friday before it started
Is it
here.
going to cause a problem if high school graduation is 2 weeks before the end of the school year?
They quit by the middle of May anyway.
We used to do that,
They should
right?
be fine.
So the seniors used to graduate and we would return.
Yeah, they always used to get a week earlier than
The other question that I had, well, in like Vale and Adrian, the teachers' contract times are 3:30 or from 7:30 to 4 o'clock. So I don't know if that is something.
So our contract says 8 hours is the workday, so it's pretty specific.
So 7:45 to 3:45.
Yeah, so 8 hours, it could be 8 to, 4 if you wanted to.
Yeah, but if the kids come in at 8, you can't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The issue is the language says 8 hours, right? So there'd have to be negotiation first. But the nice thing about 3 is where if you went 8 period, which is we made no changes, we would go into June. And that learning gap, I know there's other things that we have to think about.
So this, because the summer's shorter.
Yeah, but the learning gap is probably the most important thing in my mind to think about. And the teachers can work around the other part.
But it sounds like you're leaning towards the option 3.
Yeah.
The teachers are.
And simply because if we did choose to go to a 7-period day, which I don't, even if we run a 7-period day, my mind says we just commit to teach kids for this amount of time, right? Even if it is more hours than the minimum, right? My thought is, even if you went to a 7-period, you could shorten. I guess I'll speak on that. I'll speak on behalf of the union and have votes on how people feel about extending the year. So I'll just say that's an option. How's that?
So you're saying that if we went to a 7-period day, we wouldn't have to extend into June?
You wouldn't have to with the district profession decide that. You could just go
Did
just
you hear that?
additional
You're
week.
saying if we chose option 3 and they moved to a 7-period day, we wouldn't have to go into June.
So somebody asked the question about can we begin earlier? I want to address that just for this year in particular. We're trying to finish the high school remodel. That's going to be the contracting company has asked us for as much time in August as they can get. So Mr. Jackman is already planning out his plan B, or if it's not quite finished, we're hoping it is. I'm going to send your high school students over to the middle school with Mr. Quiver, right?
Outside classroom is that?
We'll figure it out. There's contingency plans.
And I will tell you that Parma students start on what? 8/15. This last year, they started on the 15th of August. And in Fruitland, they started on the 17th of August. Those were the high school. They had a later start date for the
So
young.
8/15 is August 15th. What time in
Yes.
the morning? What's their?
I don't know what time in the morning. But on August 15th.
How does Ontario, and that starts on 9 in the morning?
They go later.
They're a trimester too.
They what?
They're a trimester as well.
Trimesters.
So that allows they have less periods in the day than we do.
Okay, so we need to make a decision. Does anybody want to make a motion to accept on these?
So again, just for clarification, if we go with number 3, but go to a 7-period day, wouldn't have to go into June.
Correct, Mr. Hunt?
That's correct. You see the breakdown, the hours on the bottom of it, or a 7-period day. 8 periods up top, 7 periods at bottom one.
What would that do to some of our CTE classes?
Not as many options. Choose from.
Yeah. Going 7 periods, right? I mean, you're reducing the number of options.
And does calendar 3 offer enough in-service days for classified to make it time?
It looks to be about the same.
Same
Is that
service
the
days.
same?
And what about the budget? Will it still stay the same if that $12,000? If we go to 7 periods and shorten the school year?
Yes, it will.
It'll still be the 12,000 shortage?
Just remember, if we don't have school, we can't serve meals, and that's how food service
That's
makes
the part that
everything.
Cindy just brought up, so everybody understands that, yes, we meet the graduation requirements of 990 with a 7-period day, that shortened third calendar, but you do not have classified employees come and work on those additional days. So they either have to have additional in-service days and make up equitable pay, or their school day has to be longer, their work day has to be longer. And I don't know what work provisions there are within their contract that might allow us to extend the day to do other services, which is a potential thing to do. Like they might be able to offer enrichment activities after school beyond what the normal day would be. Not to throw that out there, but there's options.
Yeah, and there are options. When we change work conditions, that's where we start engaging those conversations with our unions.
But in theory, it will not probably meet without some additional days with classified employees
You
coming.
have to do this.
Correct. There's no way to do that.
But the one with the enrichment Fridays would use the classifieds on those Fridays.
So at some point, we have to show up to work, either work with kids or work without kids in order to make everybody work 8 hours a day.
Preferably with kids, right?
Megan, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just
That's the problem.
I was just gonna say, at Crane, they go really long days, but their elementary has a shortened day, and then people who can't get picked up at the earlier time, the instructional assistants have a program where they get their hours, but the students are also being supervised for parents who can't pick them up at the earlier time. So, that's not it.
It's the bus and the food service as well. I mean, it's, we use those.
It's much easier to keep people whole if we have a work day where all the employees come to work with kids. That's why the extended calendar is beneficial. Because it's a real school day with kids that we feed those to, and we drive school buses for.
Yeah, so, I think, so Luke, you're saying calendar 1, you don't have one in front of you.
Or it's 3 and you're wanting to go to a 7-period day, but it doesn't fix your classified problem if you go to a 7-period day. Yes, it allows you to cut off school days, right, to meet the high school graduation requirements, but it does not address your classified employees.
It doesn't figure out how to keep them whole
Correct.
financially.
Someone has to come into work sometime.
But if we kept it as is, it would.
Huh?
But the 8 periods do, right?
The 8 periods.
8 period days for that calendar.
Yeah, but it's gonna have to go really close to the same number of days. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, is you can change the 7 or 8 period day, you're still gonna have to have relatively about the same number of adult work days, regardless. So if you go 4 days most of the year, you have to go in June to get enough adult equitable time to keep all your employees whole. The adults have to show up to work that number of days, for that number of hours to stay whole. So you're right, you can cut it down to 7 period days, but the reality of the world is those adults have to come in somewhere else during the school year.
So, is there a motion maybe to do option 3 and leave it as is? I can't make a motion.
It's a tough choice. There's pros and cons to every single calendar, and it seems like we've always said, no matter what you choose, somebody's gonna be upset.
Mr. Hawkins said there's adjustments in there, right? I mean, So what you're voting for is very closest we can get to, and then we have to tweak it in order to fit. You know, we're talking about not losing the salaries for us. The easiest way to do that to me is calendar one, but some of you have expressed concern about calendar one, that it really isn't Fridays on break, right? So that's a concern or value of the board, and we're working with Saturday.
I'm just concerned that we might lose a lot of staff if we stick with a more full week. And from what I'm hearing, that people are being offered to go to other districts, it's significant. We need to be competitive.
I have a question. Do all schools have to end at the same time?
No, the required seat hours are greater for, higher for grades 9 through 11. Actually, grade 12 is less. More typical elementary type. What are the seat hours for elementary? 900. So high school 9 through 11 is 990, and elementary is 900. So no, you don't have to get on at the same time. It becomes a busing issue.
Because I'm just thinking if one gets out like at, I don't know, 3:10, the other one at 3:20, and the other one at 3:30. I mean, the bus goes from point A to pick up point B or whatever.
Then they're sitting on the bus waiting for their siblings.
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, because theoretically, couldn't you do like a calendar too, where the elementary gets out earlier, they can get picked up earlier if they have a ride, and then there's an after-school program, then they ride the bus with everybody else? Well, I'm just saying that way they're still getting their hours in too.
And that would be the enrichment opportunity? Calendar 2?
So calendar 2, but with the elementary ending at the like 3:06 time instead of the 3:30 time.
Calendar 2 has the most Fridays that are, no, not calendar 2.
Yeah.
Calendar 2 has the most Fridays that are in service. It's 18.
I don't see 18 as the most. Do we have them on 18?
So just real quick on the interest part.
Yes.
How many days do you currently work in service?
They're all the same.
It says 11.
We've got 11 for all.
So currently, the classified staff only work 2 of the in-service days currently. So there's like 13 days on the calendar 3, right? So to keep them whole, you can add additional in-service days for them to work instead of even extending the year.
But there are things that you do.
There's a lot
They
of
currently
training.
only work 2 of the in-service days. So you just add, like Luke's saying, making them whole, right? So they might have to work 6 in-service days. What does that mean? You might be getting extra training that they normally wouldn't receive. So I think that would be a benefit.
See a lot on that one.
That works for the classified that are in building, right? It really, once again, has an issue with food service. Correct.
And just note that food service does work less hours already than the in-building, because they would work on the conferences, right? Which typically are 12-hour days, including 24 hours less. So there are some hours that they work, or don't work that other classified employees do work. As well as bus drivers, right? Along with those, on the 2 in-service days, they probably take them in a year to all classified employees. So they're not equal as it is, right? So.
Everybody ready to go? You guys have a preference? Anybody willing to make a motion? You gotta decide tonight.
Madam Chairman, I like calendar or the second calendar, the extended day, but taking into consideration Megan's suggestion about having the elementary school end early and using that 24 minutes or whatever for enrichment.
I'm kind of leaning towards counseling.
Go in as you can.
Yeah. Only 4 years. And the teachers are kind of leaning towards 3. And I just think it would shorten the learning up. While we have school. What do you guys think?
Or instead of adding that extra week at the end, it could be added at the beginning of August. It's not starting on the calendar.
Can you make a motion to just give us a raise and pick whatever you want?
Okay, somebody make a motion. So Cindy, how would option 3 work for the class number?
I know it's the worst one for us. It's just a matter of making up, where are we gonna make up our time?
Like in-service days?
Yeah, is there enough in-service, that was the thing, is there enough in-service? If all the Fridays are gonna be out, or mostly, you know, we don't normally, like I said, we only work 2 in-services in a year. So,
But I know that when I worked all day, you could say, nobody ever trained.
I know, I looked at one, I remember one, I looked at it one time, I know it kept changing, but we were like behind 17 days or something. There was a lot that we were like, well, where are we gonna make this up? There was like gonna be no way to make it up.
So, I mean, you could, the thing about it, if the board makes the commitment that we're going to ensure that all of our employees are in, we can make sure it happens tonight, right? I think that the conversation needs to happen is, what is best for kids? And in that process, how do we ensure that our adults are taken care of as well? And that's when we do have those Fridays, we find opportunities, we do that, because that's, if the board said, we want this, calendar 3, we want to ensure that our employees aren't losing money, so short classified, we go back and get that done, right?
Well, isn't that calendar 1 then?
Calendar 1 gives us more opportunities for that, right? I mean, it has those enrichment Fridays. There is less cost that's going to be associated with it, absolutely, and it is easier to do that. But again, if the board says extended school year plus make our employees whole, we can get it done. That's not an issue. We can get it done. And so, that's what I would look at rather than thinking about those little tweaks. Is like, here are the big rocks that you need to accomplish with this, and then we can go from there.
I make a proposal that we accept calendar 3, maybe possibly with an adjustment of the start date to make it so we don't go into June. Right, with the understanding that the classified will be taken care of during that time. Of course, we have to honor the contract, and so as long as you're working on those little details and ironing that out, yes, I'm proposing 3.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? 4. Opposed? So it's 4-3. Motion carries. So at the next meeting, will you come up with a calendar 3 that Mr. Hawkins? Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, I'm sorry, what?
Will you come up with a calendar 3 that shows us how the classified?
Yep, absolutely. And I'll be working closely with you and see how we can get that accomplished. And also, like I said, Darren has he gave you guys the costs associated with it, so you guys know that, even though we're going to be short, but by doing that will encumber the district more, but we commit to our employees, right? So I just want to make you aware of that, so yeah, we'll get there.
Alrighty, let's go on to 9, new business, appointment of budget committee vacancies. I saw that we had a couple of applicants.
I would move that we accept those 2 applicants.
For the 3 positions, is that right?
We had 3, is that right, Krista?
We had 3, and we had 2 applicants.
2 applicants.
There was Mr. Cleaver and who else?
Mr. Bunker.
Okay, she made a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so we'll accept those 2 and just be one short. Okay, the auditing service proposals, Crystal?
Yes. So as you all are aware, we lost our auditor this year as they've chosen not to renew their Oregon license. And so we had to send out a request for audit service, a request for proposal of auditing services of our district. So that got sent out. Our district received multiple proposals for fiscal year 23 auditing services. Those proposals were reviewed by our audit committee. I want to say each proposal was really thoughtful, very detailed and professional, and I'd like to thank the firms that took the time to actually submit a proposal because it is a lot. The committee has selected a firm that has an amazing resume of school district clients, and the majority of those school districts have been with this audit firm for over 20 years. In addition, the firm's proposal meets our district's needs, and they are willing to supply 25 hours of additional technical support to our district throughout the fiscal year at no additional cost. So it's my pleasure on behalf of our audit committee, I recommend to our school board, Connected Professional Accountants, otherwise known as CPA, out of La Grande, Oregon, for our district's fiscal year 23 auditing services. And to remind you, this is an action item. That is my recommendation. And I believe you received the proposals in your packets.
So we need to vote on
I would make a motion that we go with Crystal's recommendation. Which one?
CPA.
CPA. Yeah.
Is there a second? All in favor? Okay, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, the superintendent contract, we went back and forth with Darren and came up with a proposal and we agreed to it.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to make a statement. I'm sorry. I was a member of the 3-man board that negotiated the contract with Rob Saxton, whom Darren employed as his negotiator. And throughout the months of March and April, however, I've had a number of personal reservations regarding this contract. And that has caused me to rethink the contract. And I have concluded that I cannot support this contract. And consequently, I will vote against extending the contract for the superintendent.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion to accept it or to decline it?
I'll make a motion to accept the contract.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of the contract that we came up with for Dr. Johnson? Raise your hand. There's 4, all opposed? You have to vote one.
Oh, I have to
Oh, or you can abstain. Okay, so it's 4 to 3. The motion is carried. Okay, go on to 10, the board study, initial budget committee meeting, May 2nd. As many of us that can be here, need to be here. Megan, it wouldn't hurt to have an email reminder. Or Crystal or someone. Okay, and then B, a work session, we need to meet to review the board scholarships, and Pat had a suggestion for that.
Yes, in conjunction with Megan, we both feel that we need to establish a matrix by which to judge, I guess, the merits of the scholarship applicants. There are 10 of them, that's a lot. So we need to have some sort of guideline. Just as a thought, I was thinking what, 40% for need, 30% for their scholarship, their grade point average, and 30% for others such as community service, sports, recommendations and such. So I don't know what the rest of you think. I would like some input on that.
And are we talking about, out of the 10, you said we had $6,000 to give. So are we going to give something to all 10, or?
We can break it up however we want.
Because last year we gave some thousand and some
Yes,
500.
Who does this, I'm trying to remember where this money comes from and if they had any requests as to where it goes.
This is school district money, so
This
it's on
is
the,
school
this is our
district.
school board
It's on our
scholarship.
grant,
So
Okay.
it's up to you, but you just
So
cannot go
we
over
can
6,000
allocate it however we want.
Doesn't have to be for someone going into education or.
Right.
unless you put those stipulations, but they never have in the past. You just cannot, as a board, go over $6,000.
Right. And it's only 6,000 because somebody didn't.
One was awarded last year and they didn't end up going to school, so.
And do we have a date that we're going to meet to go over these? When do they have to, is there a date we have to have them done by?
They have to say a word.
Okay. So we need to meet before
So probably
May
like a
3rd is
week
the
or two prior to that, because they do all the
the typing. So it's 2 weeks from
the
tonight.
programs and stuff.
May 2nd is the budget, is that right, Crystal?
May 2nd is the budget committee.
So the 24th? Does anybody have an objection to that? That week, or that's a Monday? So can we meet here on April 24th? And if we all have looked them over and maybe use this matrix, which I think is a good idea, to prioritize what we think is.
What time, 7?
I don't know, we haven't set time. Oh, what time is good for everybody? Mr. Farmer, what time are you doing?
November. Anytime, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock is good? That work for everybody else? Okay, so 7 o'clock on the 24th, we'll have a work session to, or is that a work session or is that here?
Work session.
Okay. To go over the scholarship applications. And okay, and now Pat has a legislative update.
Legislative update. Yes. The legislature is in session and they're still working as opposed to Idaho, who have just adjourned, I guess. However, just for your information, Idaho meets every year, Oregon meets every other year. Senate Bill 1045, which essentially removed local control or our school board control and gave it to the Department of Education, has been sent to the Rules Committee and probably will not make it to the floor this year. House Bill 2739, which restores our input into the state calculations for school funding, is still on track to, it's moving towards joint ways and means, and hopefully it will make it out to the floor and be considered. And then there is Senate Bill 292, which would exempt small school districts, district board members from having to file the SEI or the Statement of Economic Interest. Maribel and I both testified remotely to the Rules Committee at their hearing. I want you to understand the SEI is required already of our business manager and of our superintendent and of certain other elected officials. The SEI requires us to name businesses with whom we or our households do business, and that you list sources of income that make up 10% or more of your household income, not just your personal income, but your household income, as well as list all real property other than your personal residence. And as I read that, you needed to put down the legal description of that property. And that is property within the district from which you were elected, so from within the Nyssa School District area. And it also requires you to list any income or debt of $1,000 or more with any business or person that could influence your decision as a board member. Personally, I find this highly invasive, and the legislative action on Senate Bill 292 is moving, but it is unlikely to be voted on until after the SEI deadline of April 15th. Therefore, in my personal instance, I am resigning from the Nyssa School Board effective the 14th of April at, I think I put 6 p.m. Here's my letter.
And I know we already got one from Alicia.
I did submit my resignation as well. I feel very strongly about this. Being on school board is my passion. It has nothing to do with my household income. I think that it's a huge invasion of privacy, and I do not think that it should be a requirement of small schools to have to do this. If you require people on school boards of small school districts, you will limit the number of people who are desiring to help the school district. The people who are successful or who are, I don't know, comfortable, let's say, might not want to share that information, and they will not run because they need to keep their business their business. So I'm resigning as well as of April 14th, and from the vice chair position as well.
I will also be resigning as of April 14th for the same reasons. I don't think it's right that they require us to do this. I will not fill it out. I will not comply, so I will resign.
I'm also resigning from the school board effective April 14th. My husband farms. I actually have not anything to do with the farming business, but I'm required to put all of his information down. That's fine.
I too will be resigning. I went through and looked at what was being requested, and I don't feel that everyone should have the information as to my household income and or where I am employed at during my daytime job.
No, in addition,
effective April 14th.
And additionally, when I ran, as well as many of the other members of this board, this was not a requirement of us, so we did not know going into this is what was going to be required.
In essence, this SEI is destroying the diversity we have on this school board, as well as the inclusive nature of our school board, simply because it is a burden placed on us, and it invades our personal and our families' privacy.
Dr. Johnson, can you tell us what will happen?
So if you will recall, I think at the last school board meeting, was it in March, Mark Redmond came from the ESD superintendent to explain what would happen. And if we were able to retain a quorum of our members, which is 4 of you, currently it's only 2, then the rest of the quorum, the 4 members could reappoint others. When we don't have a quorum, which is the case currently, then the ESD school board will reappoint school board members. Those of you who express interest to Mr. Redmond, he will, I will communicate with him and with you, and he and his board, per statute, will reinstate those who are interested.
Will that be right away, or?
It will be after April 15th. I think he's not. 18. I was trying to think. I thought it was 27.
He talked about doing them all at once on the 25th, but he said that he could do it in his regular board meeting on the 18th.
Thank you.
And that will eliminate the need for those who want to be reappointed to fill out that SEI?
It will make you, if the law or if this proposal stands, it